Okay, it's about 8:40 Saturday morning, October 26th. Getting ready to do a long walk, about 26.2 miles. Basically a marathon that I'm going to walk instead of run. Weather looks okay. There may be occasional scattered showers. It rained earlier or overnight. High's going to be about 89 to 90 degrees, light breeze. I think it'll be okay. I wish it was cooler, so I didn't sweat so much, but I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to go at a slow pace, try not to get injured, and we'll see how it goes. One thing about starting early in the morning, even though it's really not very early in the morning, is that at least the traffic is not quite so bad, and it's not super brutally hot yet. And I'm gonna get to 72nd Avenue over here, and we're gonna be on that road for a long way headed south, probably 6 or 7 miles with some zigzags to do crossings. But again, we're going mostly just straight south, dodging cars, see how it goes. This is pretty urban, this area. I guess when my parents moved south to this area, this was all tomato fields and maybe some strawberry fields. Once upon a time it was all agricultural, and this is just on the north side of a kind of a very historic shopping center, one of the oldest malls, shopping malls, called Dadeland. I think for many years Dadeland had the highest per square foot sales volume of any mall in the world, any shopping mall in the world. And I remember, I think we were there with my parents like the opening day, and eventually they enclosed it and air conditioned it, and they had a bunch of anchor stores. They expanded it, and a friend of mine worked on it, on the expansion. And I guess at some point when the weather's really not good, you can be a mall walker. It's probably half a mile long, maybe even longer, maybe 3/4 of a mile long from one end to the other, and you can walk in air-conditioned comfort. I don't know if they really like that, but I know that people do it, probably before the opening. So that's an option for people when the weather is bad, and probably meet up with people, look around. It seems kind of interesting. Maybe in my future someday. Tall buildings. People walking their dogs. This is the backside of Dadeland, the shopping mall. There's Snacker Creek, which extends all the way out to the Biscayne Bay. It has a dam or flood control gates that they open and close when the water level's high. I'm gonna walk along the west side of J.C. Penney here, and long ago, when I was a senior in high school, I worked at this J.C. Penney. Afternoons, after school, I would work part-time, about 4 hours, in the display department. Whoop, ooh, don't fall, Stu. Worked about 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, 20 hours a week, making signs. That was my job, to print the signs. Got the job because I was taking a graphics class in high school, and I was very lucky to get it. It was a good job with some fun people, including a young lady who was about 4 or 5 years older than me, who on her lunch break used to like to go up on the roof and ostensibly to spray paint mannequins that got nicked and chipped in storage, and she'd go up there and sunbathe topless, and that was kind of she was a character. It was a wild time, and really nice people that I worked with, and I wonder where they are now. Anyway, coming up again to US 1. One of the things that Dadeland is kind of famous for is in the 80s, I think, there was shootouts, cocaine cowboy shootouts in the mall here, and that was kind of one of the claims of fame of the Dadeland Mall. But you can see there's high-rise condos all around it. Part of that is because of the mass transit. The Metro rail stations allow people to get to the airport and to other places without having a car. And not exactly sure what they're building underneath here. I'm going to try and sneak through. A little muddy. Looks like some kind of storm drainage or underground utility stuff that they're doing. Gotta see where I can cross here. It's not real obvious, and people will absolutely run you down. This is part of that trail that goes south all the way to Homestead. And I'm going to wait to cross, which I know for sure they'll try and hit me, even if I do have a green arrow. Well, no, I'm not going to wait to cross. I'm going to head over and see. Now I'll wait for the light. Okay, got to cross the big road. I think that's the biggest road I got to cross. And it wasn't bad, and I didn't actually wait for the light. Nice that at certain parts of the day the traffic is not terrible. So once upon a time, I'm gonna actually go right through my old neighborhood. Once upon a time, this was a bar and grill on the corner here. It was at one time a Lum's restaurant after the original bar and grill. And I think my brother Andrew got in trouble once for stealing a chicken or stealing eggs. They used to have chickens here, and they would get the eggs for the restaurant to be able to make breakfast. So that's the backside of the shopping center, but that's where the bar and grill was before the Lum's. And Villas Apartments. This is actually an area, some of these apartments, a lot of the World Championship Dolphins players lived. Nick Bonacani, when he was young, I know was here. There's like 3 or 4 of them in the neighborhood in the early 1970s that lived here. That was kind of neat. Okay, I was thinking to myself, can I remember the names of all the families that used to live here? This is definitely my old street, and I can't remember most of them. I really can't. That family over there, not that house, but that family we knew, and they were there a long time. This family was, I think, I don't know, I don't want to embarrass myself. Wilbauers lived, I think, Rusty Wilbauer lived over there, or something like that. And up ahead was the Ziffs. I remember getting brutally sunburned. I continue to suffer the consequences of getting sunburned too many times as a child. And nice little house there. See, that's kind of the way things were. That's the scale that houses were, and that was the Ziffs. Scott and Dirk Ziff lived there. Not the Ziff Publishing people, but almost the same name. And they've built a lot of new houses here. And let's see if the Dunn's house is still here. It is a well-built house. Mr. Dunn helped my father build our house. He was a very skilled carpenter and a science teacher at Palmetto Senior High. Palmetto Senior High being the alma mater of Frank Bezos of Amazon fame. So, not Frank Bezos. Who is it? What's Bezos? Jeff Bezos' name. And that was the Dunn's house. And Jeff Bezos at Palmetto, and that was the Dunn's. Right over here on the corner is where I lived. This was, over here was, I can't remember. So sad but it was long ago. And nice tree canopy. I mentioned, I know someone who ran into this tree one night, late at night, and was pretty badly injured. That tree is still there. That's a 50-year-old tree. That's what they look like. And walk in the neighborhood. And the Estevers live there, not in that house though. And lots of people. That's kind of like what the house I grew up in looked like, with the sloping roof, the brick chimney. Very similar to that. That's kind of, they would use slump brick for the lower part near the wet ground, and then they would use wood frame as the real structure was wood frame, and but just the brick cladding on the outside. See a clear story up at the top. So that was lots and lots of houses like that. And I think on this corner were the Willerers. And the father, Mr. Willerer, was a pilot for Pan Am. A lot of pilots lived around here, actually. And he went down in the Andes on a Pan Am flight. And that was kind of really sad for his kids and wife and the people on board, but that was back in the days of the prop planes. So it was down in South America, a run to either Chile or somewhere like that. It either went down in the Amazon or the Andes. I think it was the Andes. And I'll walk over here. Golly. I wonder if they're getting ready to tear down a new house. This is like one of considered the new houses. And who was here? Lacey and Joey. Lacey and Joey lived there. This was an avocado grove originally. And Lacey became a surf guru up in near on the East Coast, I think Sebastian Inlet or somewhere around there. And a lot of the 1 acre lots were divided to make half acre lots for houses. And just up ahead was my friend Jim's house, Jim and Janet Nesbitt, that were good friends, and Polly Nesbitt. Their mom was very sweet to me growing up, and turning the corner, really doing this particular route, which is on the way, but I'm doing it for my friend Carlos, who is now in California, and I email him pretty regular, so I want him to see his old neighborhood if he ever watches this video. So I'll do that. So there were none of the houses on the left here when I was growing up. All of these were added in the late, mid to late 70s, maybe the early 80s, and relatively modest by current standards, where they never build anything less than 5,000 square feet, probably 3,500 or so. It's an interesting contrast to the tiny house movement. And there's articles in the newspaper all the time about Miami being in crisis because housing is unaffordable, and people just keep buying bigger and bigger houses. So my friend Carlos lived on this street, and to the left is a tennis club that's been here since the early 60s for sure, and nice quiet street off the beaten path, part of Pinecrest now. I can't remember all the people, just so many people. Now, skateboarding, that would be a little quicker than what I'm doing. But it's really tough on your right leg, it looks like. Using just one leg, I don't know. Wonder if the right leg gets to be larger than the left leg. Or do people alternate? I don't know, I never was a skateboarder. So, still on 72nd Avenue here. And interesting public art in the middle of the traffic circle. That's kind of cool, unusual. A little turquoise casita over there behind the pile of mulch. And people out in their yards on a Saturday. I'm just conferring with the tree trimmer. And I should remind everyone that this video is being made right before Halloween 26th, so 5 more days will be Halloween. And I don't know that parents let their kids wander around getting candy from strange people very often anymore, but I think there's little groups that figure it out where the safe houses are, and they go to each other's houses, something like that. Anyway, Halloween was a very fun holiday back in the day when at least the world seemed much safer. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but it certainly seemed like it was more safe in Miami way back then. That was Chuck Cross. Long way to go on this road. Long way to go on this road. So, I don't know if those are ibis or what. I forget. There's 2 birds that look very similar, but breeding bugs early in the morning. Look at that. And they're, I think these are one of those birds that was very, almost hunted to extinction for their plumage. Maybe it was this one. And I don't know if this one is a symbol for the Hurricanes, Miami Hurricanes, their animal logo. So coming up coming up on an hour. Still a little under an hour, about 3.65 miles. With some big road crossings that cut the pace down just a wee bit. Just to let you know what I'm carrying. I have a 2-liter bladder, platypus bladder that's about 3/4 full is what I started with. I have a Frog Togs rain jacket. I have a reflective vest in case I need to stop and come back after dark. I have a nice reflective vest that I can wear. I have a flashlight, a big battery for the camera that I'm using, and peanut butter sandwich, an apple, some nuts, a couple figs. Carrying about maybe 11 pounds altogether, which is nothing compared to a serious hike, but it's probably like what everybody strives for light base weight. So probably have more water than I need. So I didn't want to start out being super heavy. I want to go as easy on myself as I can and still see how the distance feels. So I feel pretty good. Kind of warmed up now after the first hour. So just about 7 hours to go. Squirrel shot. Didn't capture him though. So not many exotic animals around here. Crossing canals. So some of this route is driven by where there are crossings of these ponds and lakes and canals. You can see the lakes represent the water table, and so some of these areas, the low-lying areas, are filled from material excavated from ponds and lakes. And so some of the lowest areas in Pinecrest has some very high ridge areas that are 14 feet above sea level, and then it's got some other areas that are 9 feet that are much more prone to flooding. So where you see the pine trees, although most of them have been killed, oh, and there, look at that. Can you imagine seeing macaws flying wild in other parts of the country? Parrot jungle was originally not far from here, just probably about maybe a mile and a half east of here, maybe 2 miles east, maybe no, mile and a half. And so I think there were many birds that escaped over 50 years or so that started colonies of wild birds and subsist on mangoes and other tropical fruits and are quite happy to live in the wild here in South Florida. Pretty neat. Oh, there's a big airplane over, and I think right around here, it reminds me of something. Right around here, when I was in elementary school, there was a mid-air collision between 2 light aircraft, and one of the planes came down and landed, well, it came down and crashed. It lost at least one wing, maybe 2, and crashed in the pool patio area of a house right around here. The other one went about another 3 or 4 miles southwest and put down on a golf course in what was Chapman Field originally. Chapman Field during World War II as a training base. So here we are, Killian Drive. So I was thinking how I sometimes miss things like the mailman saying good morning and people walking their dogs saying good morning. Sorry I don't have the camera on to capture those nice moments as I'm walking. And I guess that's true of any video. You don't always capture all the good stuff. And saw like a real amazing exotic car drive by. Have some very wealthy people that live around here in some areas, not necessarily on this street per se. And I saw a hearse drive by, a Cadillac hearse, and we're coming up to a big church. So maybe there's a funeral today up at the church. And but weather looks pretty good. Holding, there's just enough of a breeze to keep me from soaking in sweat. And I'm wearing like long pants and long shirt, long sleeve t-shirt here to keep from getting sunburned. As I said, I got way too much sun as a young person. Back in the days where we slathered ourselves in baby oil, and really the only sunblock there was zinc oxide paste, kind of in tubes like a tube of toothpaste. But I've had a little bout with skin cancer. Don't want to do that again. It's no fun. So this is one of the places I can cross the canal, and that's the church there, probably where the funeral is this morning. So for many years, I'm not sure if it still is, but this was a monastery over here near the Palmetto schools, and I think it was in danger of being sold by the church during the time that there was the sex abuse scandals, and they were trying to raise money, and there were a lot of the diocese were in jeopardy, financial difficulty, and I think they were able to raise money to keep it. And I turned the camera on because in a few places in Miami you can see the underlying bedrock. And this is an example here where they've cut the road through a natural ridge of the limestone. That's not a wall, that's a limestone rock face. No, actually that does look like masonry, but it's not. And you see the layers, and they're kind of twisted and bent a little. This is like a big hill right here, but kind of interesting to see the natural bedrock. Good morning. So that's what it looked like. That's what's underneath here for the most part, and it's very porous, and the groundwater just migrates through it like a sponge. So, and if you dig down 3 or 4 feet or 5 feet from the walking surface, you frequently hit water. And there was a guy I knew over here that was building an airplane in his garage, a F-1 rocket, single seat, low wing, high performance metal airplane. And he eventually did finish it and moved upstate to Central Florida, I think. But that's kind of cool. Okay, so this is where I'm pretty sure I make a turn to the left to go over a bridge over the canal. Otherwise I would be trapped. And that house there with the round wall and the peak, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that at one point way back when, there was a guy in the garage that is now enclosed with that single white door that a Guy got in his car and turned the key and it blew up because some people that didn't like him put a bomb in his under the hood of his car. So I think that's the house. I don't know if he was an accountant or something like that, but they said it was a mob hit. That's the story. I don't know if it's true. So, headed across the canal and down a road I've never been on, which is trying to do this route almost exactly according to what Google Maps walking directions gave me, and printed out as 3.1 miles to a certain point, and I'm going to go a little bit. What did I say? 13.1 miles? I hope 13.1 miles, and then a little bit beyond out onto a jetty down at Black Point. So I'm not trying to walk any extra route today. I think it's going to be hard enough for me to do this distance without sidetracking. And there's one of the many Pinecrest ponds. There's a little iguana right there on the water pipe. So trying to see if I'm in the right spot, and it looks like I am. I was kind of worried there. I really do not want to be walking many blocks out of the way, but I had to stop, unfortunately, to check my phone, because I've never been this way. So, why did the peacock cross the road? I guess to get to the other side. There's the occasional peacock around here, actually all over the place in South Florida, but Coconut Grove, I just read in the paper this morning, they feel like they got to round them up because there's just too many of them. But they're kind of interesting creatures. So this is a route that is east of Old Cutler. That's part of the remnant of the hammock that was the Deering estate. A lot of oak trees. And this road is called Farmer Road. I have never walked it. I've been kind of all around it, but never actually right here. And an interesting, ominous vehicle here, dark black. It's like a moving or stage, maybe theater company. I think that is Old Cutler right there. And Cartee, yeah, I passed this. Now this property right here, I don't know if this is it yet, but at some point we're going to get into an area that was donated. Now this isn't it yet. I'll talk about that when we get there, if we get there. But getting further south here. So on Old Cutler now, the Old Cutler bike path. And I've seen some bike riders. I think there's some coming up ahead. And nice and shady. It's getting hotter and hotter, so it's nice that there's some shade here under the bike path. Usually kind of noisy, the cars going by. So I'm going to stop up ahead at the Starbucks in another mile or two, and then continue on about another 3 or 4 miles. Well, I guess that's what the inside of a traffic signal looks like. So I'm not going to go the pedestrian route past the Deering estate, but that is a really nice route, worth the extra distance. I don't know. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay my intended course, but That's a real nice way to go. I'm not going to do it this way today, because I did it like 2 weeks ago. I want to go a different way. Nice and shady. Very thankful. So, I don't know how well you can hear me over all the traffic, but right across the road here, Old Cutler Drive, is about a maybe 20-acre parcel. Very nice native hammock that was donated to the county, Miami-Dade County, by the Weeks family. And the Weeks family had a propane business and started a Weeks Air Museum and eventually Fantasy of Flight. And very nice family, aviation family, and nice gift to the people of Florida of a little bit of wild Florida across the street. So, it's 11 o'clock. Been walking for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And coming up on the 8-mile mark, I'm going to do a little rest stop here at the Starbucks up ahead. I'm kind of tempted to try and get a banana somewhere, a piece of fruit. But I think I'm going to just stick with coffee. I do need my coffee during the day. Otherwise I get a headache. So stop at Starbucks. Ooh. Anyway, no rain yet, and I'm going to do a little stretch after I stop. I missed the rush. Otherwise I would have been waiting in line for 5 minutes. So, 8 miles into this, only 18 to go, and I'm going to take a little rest stop here for some coffee and keep on going. Feeling good. I probably am going to try and stretch a little bit after this stop. So far so good. See how I feel. May stop here on the way back as well. I'm going to make a pit stop here at the Deering Estate headquarters, the interpretive building, and then be on my way. I'm going to get back on the trail after a pit stop at the Charles Deering Estate and Starbucks. Yeah, the weather to the south looks good. So I think that building was at one time Snowden's restaurant, and I had that confused with Black Caesar's Forge, which was another restaurant. But we're going to head over to Snowden's Bridge, where we used to jump off when we were in high school into the canal. We'll see that in a bit. And that place with the dome is a barbecue, kind of outdoor barbecue. It plays blues music and cooks up barbecue on the weekends at least. So I have to say, sitting down for 10 minutes in the air conditioning at Starbucks was actually pretty refreshing. I was afraid my legs would be stiff after stopping, but it was actually good. I feel better now. So we keep on going. And the Pineland over there, it's kind of beat up, but struggling to survive. So a lot of the canals that I was trying to get around, this is where they finally, one of the few spots where they finally exit to the bay. And this little tiny bridge up ahead is what we call Snowden's Bridge. And we're going to look over the side. This is a nice spot here to launch kayaks and canoes. It's kind of rocky, but good spot to launch a canoe. And may make a little side detour here. This is a narrow bridge, so hopefully I don't encounter any cyclists as I cross. So you can see there's the limestone sloping up from the bay. as high as I remember it, or maybe what's going on is that seawater's come up about 1.5 feet. But when I was younger, I seem to remember that it was such a long way down. Doesn't seem so far now. In Hurricane Andrew in 1992, there was like a big tugboat that washed in from the ocean way out there. That's Biscayne Bay, and then the Gulf Stream and Atlantic Ocean beyond. And there was a tugboat, I think, aground up here, tugboat that drew about 12 feet. So the water level was at least 12 feet above where I'm standing right now in Hurricane Andrew. So it was probably storm surge of something like 16 to 18 feet right around here. This was pretty much where it made landfall, right about here. Hurricane Andrew, 1992. So the question is, can I do this detour? I think it's public property. The old Burger King estate, I'm not at Burger King estate, the Burger King headquarters. I know they have disc golf, and they have, in addition to the library, kind of a cool building damaged by Hurricane Andrew and rebuilt, and then eventually Burger King headquarters moved up near Lime International Airport, which who knows, maybe I'll do a walk up there sometime. But here we are. I'm not sure how to get over there other than cut through the bushes, which I don't know that I can do. Let's see. See a bunch of people walking around. Oh, that's the fence down, so I'll have to see. I'm going to try going this way. But here's my brothers wondering why I'm not soaring with them today. So it seems like the path is this way. And we're very close to the Biscayne Bay. And I wonder why it's not open. I see people throwing discs. Look at that. I don't know if I can get around here, but I'm sure going to try, because I don't want to backtrack. Doesn't look like it. So that spot where the fence was down, I have to try and go through there. A lot of butterflies. Butterfly plants. There's some milkweed with the orange flowers. And public access is cut off. So I'm going to go off over the fence. What a nice form. Hill. Amazing. Hill on my So this was Burger King Corporation World Headquarters. They had all kinds of test kitchens and laboratories to develop new, easy-to-eat food. And I must confess, I ate a lot of Burger King growing up. Lots and lots of Burger King. We lived probably 3 or 4 blocks from one of the first 3 or 4 Burger King locations in the world, and it was actually their retail test facility. And we used to go there for dinner a number of nights, walk over there, and at one point they had a contest with the Miami Dolphins to win season tickets and field passes, and we kind of stuffed the ballot box because we lived nearby and won some season tickets. And my brother Glenn, who was probably 6 years old at the time, 5 years old, won a pass to sit on the bench on the sidelines during the game, and that was pretty cool. And let's see, and insulated the other side. So here we are. Did a drone flight over here one time. This is actually publicly accessible land that is not within 5 miles of an airport. It's not a park. So there's county regulations that say you cannot fly a drone in any of the county parks, actually on state parks or national parks either, but you can fly it off of private property. And this had public access, so I was able to fly, do one of the first tests of my DJI Spark drone down here about 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago. Weather seems to be holding. I'm happy about that. Although right now I'm pretty much soaked with sweat, so I don't know that being soaked with rain would be worse, but yes, it would be worse, so I shouldn't discount that possibility. So, the bay, Biscayne Bay, is about 300 yards past the buildings there on the other side of the mangroves. Anyway, that's what they look like. Disc catcher, disc golf target. And there's another goal over there. And back on the path. This was actually a detour. So there's any question that I actually got the full distance, this was a little sidetrack that added to my distance. So, some bike riders there. So, a little word on walking technique. I think what I can get away with when I walk for a mile or 4 miles or something like that, short distances, is kind of sloppy technique, hitting my heels, or not doing a completely relaxed gait. To make this, I'm going to intentionally try and flex my toes and use kind of a rolling motion from heel to toe as I land each footstep in order to reduce the impact and kind of use all of my foot rather than impacting on one spot like a heel or the ball of the foot. So we'll see how that works. Last time I did that 18 mile hike, I had a blister on my left foot. So I need to consciously alter my gait a little bit at times, not to go faster than what is really most comfortable. So if I'm going to make this without injury, I need to be a little conscious of how I walk. So noisy. It's definitely not a tranquil experience walking next to big roads. Actually, this is not a big road. It's just not quiet. And you see the share of the road that has been painted out, but serious road bikers don't want to ride on this path right here because people pull out of driveways and there's roots and all sorts of debris. So this is for the not so serious bike rider, maybe mountain biker or trail biker and walkers and hikers. And I should tell you about my footwear. I'm wearing Skechers, and I like them, and I use them a lot. And by the way, I'm not endorsed by Skechers, but I can tell you that they're just a little too narrow. My pinky toe on both feet is a little bit getting chafed. I'm wearing 2 pairs of socks for the first time ever. These socks that have the little pocket for each individual toe in hopes of avoiding blisters between my toes. But anyway, I'm going to have to find some wider toe box shoes because definitely your feet swell the farther you walk. And I'm probably about, 11 miles into this now, 10 or 11 miles into this, and doing okay. Getting ready to make a turn up ahead. I don't even know the street. I just know that's where I gotta turn to Black Point Marina, Old Cutler Road, 87th Avenue, south and north, and selling pumpkins over here. Halloween isn't over yet. You may see a lot of boats on trailers. People going down to Black Point Marina, and I'm headed to the Black Point Trail. So we'll see how. I think the rest of the route is not going to have any shade, so that's a shame because it's now 12:20. Been walking for 3 hours and 40 minutes and making progress, but I wish it was a little cooler. I was kind of hoping to wait to do this for a cool front, but I'm not sure when I'll have a chance to do it again in the next few weeks. So I want to do it to keep up my training. Kind of been going diagonally, which is nice to get to where you want to go, following the shoreline, roughly paralleling the shoreline of South Florida, Biscayne Bay. And now we're headed just straight south again. And I've driven this route but never walked it or used to bike to get down here, so I don't know if it zigs and zags, but actually it does look like there is some shade, at least for part of it. That's good. So, truth is, I'm not sure if I should cross here or what. I don't think it's a big deal. I could always cross farther down. And this side seems shadier, so I'm going to stay on this side. Everglades Bicycle Club is taking care of this road, so that's nice. Walk, 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 walk. It says no motor vehicles on the bike path there, so that's probably the path on the other side. But again, this side seems shadier. Although there are some rough spots on this sidewalk, I would not want to ride a bike because the tree roots have torn up the sidewalk. See, there's a big bump right there. So, but it's good for me. That right there is sugarcane, and those right there are papayas. So somebody's got a nice little fruit orchard in their backyard. And so far so good on this side of the road, which is not the official path. It looks like I would have to really get down low to get underneath the bougainvillea up ahead. So I don't know if that's going to work. See how far I can go. It looks like the sidewalk may be ending soon. Maybe I should walk on the grass. I don't know. A little more cushiony for my tired feet. Yeah, it does look like it's ending up there. So, no, maybe not. I see more. Yep. Gotta have the camera pointing the right way. And once again, I'm turning the camera the wrong way. That does not look like where I want to go. So I'm going to keep going straight. On what is the Biscayne Trail, not the Black Point Trail. So hopefully I can cross without getting run over. They say only mad dogs and Englishmen are out in the noonday sun. But here we are. This section is definitely longer than I thought and no shade. So, but the end of this leg right here is Black Point Park. So I think I see the end up ahead. But then we'll walk east towards the bay once we're in the Black Point Park, Black Point Marina. So not too much longer before I get to take my lunch break. This is a long, straight stretch with no shade. Not very interesting. So I don't know what to tell you. I gotta walk it back the other way too. This big blue pipe, I guess that must be water. And over there is sewage treatment plant. Definitely not, I don't think it's it's definitely not a water treatment plant. And there's also solid waste dump. And I'm trying not to get run over by a cyclist. Crocodiles. They'll eat you. I've seen manatees down here in the marina a long time ago. So I just talked to a guy, another walker on this long stretch of uninteresting trail, and I said to him, not too many people crazy enough to be walking, everybody else is on a bike. And he replied, "It's beautiful." And I guess it's all your point of view. But anyway, he was overweight, not wearing a shirt, and to be commended, because let me tell you, doing this kind of walking in midday out in the heat, well, you'll definitely shed some pounds. Be interesting to see. I mean, I'm going to have some carbs for lunch, but I generally expect I'll lose at least 3 or 4 pounds on this particular walk. So now clearly a lot of that may be water, but it's a great part of a weight loss program, is to do, be active, burn those calories. So that's how they let the stormwater drain. It looks like it's flowing a little bit outward. Fresh water going out into the bay. I see a little bit of a current in the water. Yep, definitely. Draining. So, that's part of the Biscayne Bay ecosystem, is to have fresh water coming into it, kind of an estuary. So it's a little bit of fresh water going in. These are black mangrove, I think, or white mangrove, I don't know. I should know, but I don't. And that's a tamarind tree there, planted. And there's a few iguana around here. Maybe we'll see one run by. Well, there's 2 of them. Like, there's a thing in the paper that 6 weeks ago. It says, feel free to kill the iguanas. There's like a big backlash because they're eating all sorts of native birds and ground-dwelling animals. You know, they eat the birds' eggs and stuff and dig holes. So they become a nuisance like many other pets that escaped over time. So lots of signs here. We're going to go across. Along the trail here. And the marina is that way. You can see that giant mound. I hope that's the landfill. Here we go. I wonder if this is trail magic up ahead, meaning volunteers or somebody providing water or food, or maybe they're just having a picnic. We'll see. Looks like somebody fell in.
Any more fish, bro?
Yeah. I got the bucket full, man. So, I forget the name of that restaurant, but I've eaten there probably 5 or 6 times, and it's pretty good. And I would actually go over there and do my lunch over there, but it's kind of like an extra mile, half mile each way. So I brought a peanut butter sandwich that I'm going to have. But anyway, that's a nice spot. And I'm hoping I can get a water refill somewhere over here at this bath house facility. There's a water faucet right there and a drinking fountain. So worst case is I'll use that. And seen a couple bikes pass. I don't know how much farther this goes. And some of that depends on the tide, and the tide is very high. So when the tide is low, the tide is high. When the tide is low, you can go farther out onto the jetty. It's really like where they dug the channel. I wouldn't call it a jetty, it's where they dug the channel and put the spoils. And so used to be you could walk out about a quarter of a mile or more, depending on the tide. Maybe a half a mile. It was quite long. And I guess when you get out into the semi-submerged area, it becomes Biscayne National Park. And so some bike racks here, and see how far we can go. Mangroves, water on both sides. So we're now on the spit of land that juts out into Biscayne Bay. buttonwood. See those kind of berries? I think that's buttonwood there. And over there is Turkey Point nuclear power plant, way down south, southern part of Biscayne Bay. And keep on going. Nice breeze. Looks like we are going to run out of land in just a minute. Got about another 50 or 75 yards to go. Looks like there are some nice shady spots to sit on a rock and have my lunch, so I'm happy about that. And this is ending the trail. So finally sat down and took my shoes off at 1:40. So essentially, yeah, double checking, 1:40, 5 hours to the point of sitting down. So 6:40, I should, if I were to turn around and walk back at the same speed, I would get home right about when it's getting dark. So I'm glad I brought my reflective vest and a flashlight, because I am going to take a little break here, let my feet cool off and shoes dry out and cool down. But it's a nice spot to stop for sure, and catch you on the return. So I had a nice lunch, and well, I wouldn't actually call it nice. It was a green apple and a peanut butter and honey sandwich, and I kind of used the last bit of my water. So I went through about 1.5 liters of water. Remember, it's hot. It's a hot day, almost 90 degrees. So in 5 hours, drinking 1.5 liters, I guess, in hot weather, that's the deal. Hopefully I get a refill up at the bathhouse ahead. And I'm definitely tired, definitely a little bit sore, but many others have done many more miles than this. So this is about, I'd say about 13.5 I've done so far. And no reason I shouldn't be able to do 26 plus. And the only thing is, it may be getting towards dark when I finish. So, but I came prepared for that. But I'm not gonna rush. The pelican is catching the wind, the wave of wind that's hitting this spit of land. He's able to slope soar along this tree line. Very cool. Watching where I'm going. I want to go up to my ankles in a puddle. I'll regret that for the rest of the walk back. Oh, bandit. 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 Oh, 3:30. Starting to run out of gas. It's just brutally hot. Definitely every bit of 90 degrees, and the last section, the last couple miles, no shade. So I stopped here in the entry to Dr. Edward Wiggum Elementary School, and I took my socks off this time. Let the dogs breathe. That's, I think, a mistake. I didn't take both pairs of socks off last time. The toe socks and the over socks. So really, I'm doing okay.
except for my feet hurt. Legs are a little tired, but they seem like they could do it. But just got to not get blisters. I haven't gotten any blisters yet. So I'm trying to figure out whether I should wear these Ingenie socks and no other socks. I guess I could try that. Probably be cooler, and it'd probably be more room for my feet inside the shoes. So there's some clouds building. Looks like rain to the north. It really is hot, but I've got enough water, so. But I think after about another half mile, I'll be in shade at least more than half the time. So looking forward to that. And my step meter says I've done 21.2 miles, but I don't really think that's very accurate. I think probably I've done maybe 16 miles or 17 miles. That would be about right so far. And have about 11 miles to go, 10 or 11 miles to go. So I'll check in with you a little later. So this is my friend Mike, who, despite my request that he not make any attempt to rescue me, is acting as a
I'm not
trail
rescuing,
angel.
I'm simply offering hydration.
Hydration and high-grade electrolytes. Coconut water, it's very good. And trust me, I need it. It's hot.
I was going to bring you a fresh coconut off my tree, but...
No, that's better. That's better. So that, you may have just saved my life without realizing it.
Well, it's always a pleasure to make an attempt.
Okay. So I'm in a trail shelter here on Old Cutler, and I figure I can stop here and take my shoes off. Better to do it here than in Starbucks. They might frown on it if I take my shoes off in Starbucks. Kind of got in a groove walking on the grass at the side of the trail where there was plenty of nice even grass, no obstacles, and I like the cushiony effect of the grass. That's definitely good because the soles of my feet are really feeling the impact, and kind of getting in a groove. It's getting cooler now because the sun is lower. It's about 5 o'clock. Have a little under 2 hours of daylight left and probably 3 hours more of walking. So I think I'm going to make it though. So I have one little blister on my second to the last toe, unfortunately. And I'm stopped here at 144th and Old Cutler with my shoes off to kind of cool my feet before I make the last big push home. Figure I have about 2 hours to do that, maybe 2.5, and it's 6:18 right now, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, so what time is it? Let me see. 5 minutes to 7. Definitely getting dark. Probably be too dark to do any more video outside after this, unless I do the scary effect of the flashlight. Pretty spooky, perfect for Halloween. Anyway, about 126th Street, probably 4 more miles to go, 5 more miles. Getting there, but I'm walking really slow because I'm sore. So it's a long way to walk. I don't know how people do it, especially in the mountains, especially with backpacks.